My lawyer and I laid a trap for my adulterous coholic wife in my divorce. When I got divorced, my coholic wife of 18 years had started another affair, this time with her addictions counselor. My lawyer and I laid a trap for them. Just in case you don't know, intimate relations between a counselor and patient are very frowned upon by the regulatory bodies. And I was more than pissed after putting her through rehab, $25,000, which I didn't have to do, only to have her fall back into her old behavior. Shortly before the divorce was finalized, I filed a complaint with the state body licensing health professions. Knowing they were in some peril because of their unprofessional relationship, I had already gotten him fired from a major teaching hospital. She had backed off her exorbitant demands. I paid her a very modest settlement, kept the house, got custody of the 3 teenage kids, plus got child support. Her lawyer naturally included a clause in the divorce where I had to agree to not say anything negative about her lover and their relationship. But the lawyer ducked up and never asked if I had already filed charges, and thus didn't require me to rescind them. Her lawyer had assumed I was just bad-mouthing them to neighbors and friends, and it never occurred to the lawyer that we were doing much more. When the Board of Health Professions responded to my complaint shortly after the divorce was finalized, I told them that it would take a subpoena to get me to testify. A subpoena trumps an agreement in a divorce settlement. They were happy to oblige. They stripped his license and placed him on a register of sanctioned health professionals. He never worked again. They were broke in a handful of years, and she divorced him when the money ran out. In the interim, his mother had died, leaving a fair-sized estate, so it took longer than I expected. Oh, and the frosting on the cake was that his wife and I traded notes, notably hotel receipts from the time of their affair, that helped each of us in our respective divorces. Justice was served. Redditor's reaction. Story 2 after. Redditor 1, her lawyer naturally included a clause in the divorce where I had to agree to not say anything negative about her lover and their relationship. Naturally? That's a common thing? A clause in a divorce that says you can't badmouth the ex's new lover to the kids? Redditor follow-up, honestly, yeah, I could see it. If a divorce is messy, the parents will more than likely talk acid and air each other's dirty laundry out to the kids. Then the kids pick sides and custody gets even messier. Redditor 2, notably hotel receipts from the time of their affair. Who keeps hotel receipts when they are having an affair? Redditor follow-up, probably receipts gotten from the hotel or from their credit card statements. Redditor 3, TBH, it mainly sounds like you helped your ex ruin another man's life. Edit FFS, I get it already. If y'all mother F seekers could stop spamming the same goddamn counter argument, that would be great. Edit salt piling up. PLS bring fries. Op answer, can't claim credit for that. She saw him as her next meal ticket and rode it as far as she could. When the money was gone, so was she. My own view is that she spun him a story of the divorce settlement she would come away with to help seal the deal. I had a better lawyer than she did, even though he was less expensive than hers. I'm polite to her, for the benefit of the kids, but that's about it. Redditor 4, what was the trap? Redditor follow-up, someone's probably going to argue semantics of the word trap, but here goes. It's where he'd already started the ball rolling on saying anything negative about her ex-wife and her lover counselor before he was expressly contracted not to by the ex-wife's lawyer. The prohibition only takes effect after signing, and there was no clause to say he also must withdraw any negative things said reported prior to the divorce papers. Op simply let things take its course and waited for the board to eventually get to his case. Story 2, my dad had an affair with his BFF's wife. So, my dad had an affair with his BFF's wife, let's call her Jane. She claimed she was pretty much in love with my father, and of course her husband didn't know. I found out because once I got a Facebook Messenger message from a fake account telling me that my father was binging his BFF's wife. I actually didn't care. My parents are divorced since 2005. The problem was that someone unknown was sending my mother text messages, telling her to leave my father alone, and many offensive things. We let it slide for a while, but then those anonymous text messages became a daily thing. We confronted my dad and he confessed that he was sleeping with Jane, but he said she was not the one sending the messages. He said he was sure because Jane's husband was also getting those messages. My dad was practically blinded by her manipulations, and my mom and I had a really strong hunch that it was her. My dad got so mad after we suggested it that he stopped speaking to me and my mom for a while. I also got mad, but much more offended because he would not believe me. I had no reason to lie to him. Still, I let all that slide. But then, I got another anonymous message offending me, telling me I was just like my mother and that's why my boyfriend had dumped me, and that we would be alone for the rest of our lives, and things like that. Then I got really mad. I went to the cyber police as a thing where I'm from, and they tracked the source of the anonymous messages. It turns out that it was her, and she was also sending her husband messages because she was so desperate for the truth to come out so she could be with my father, although I think that just confronting her husband would have been better. What she really wanted was to distance my father from me and my mom. She was messing with my family, so I decided to mess with hers, and sent the proof to her husband and her sons that she was behind the anonymous messages, and that she was, in fact, sleeping with my dad. I also showed my dad the proof and exposed her on Facebook. She was a saleswoman, so it did affect her. Her sons and her husband were so mad at her, she had to move out of her house, and my dad broke up with her as well. She was left alone, but I feel like that's what she deserved. Redditor's reaction. Story 3 after. Redditor 1, Karma. She can be a very mean lady. Careful, she bites. Redditor 2, so she was sending messages to her own husband detailing her own affair and it took police evidence for her husband to dump her? Like, was she simultaneously denying the affair while sending the messages? Redditor 3, you did your dad a service. Redditor follow up, he was cheating with his best friend's wife, he deserves some karma too. Redditor 4, it's good that you were able to get proof. Why would I lie is not a great reason to suddenly believe someone. If you think about it, it sounds exactly as something someone lying would say. But I'm more intrigued by the cyber police. That sounds awesome, TBH. Now I'm wondering if my city police has something like this. Redditor 5, I know how this feels. My dad was sleeping with other women while he was married to my mom. One of the women turned out to be, at the time, my best friend's mom. When we all found out about this, my best friend started bullying me because of what my dad did, and what made it worse is the several different things that he would do I don't even want to list because of how pissed I am about it. Story 3, long revenge on my Mill mother-in-law. Long time lurker and decided to share my revenge story which has not concluded. If there are mistakes, please understand that English is not my native language, thus I apologize up front. Also, this will be somewhat long, so buckle up for the ride. Some background. My wife has 2 sisters. Her father passed and he was a very intelligent and kind person that I look up to, years after his passing. Mill is still alive and doing horribly. Mill has always been a difficult person, maybe straight up ETCH would more appropriate. Used to cheat on her husband, even taking my wife, then 4 or 5 years old, with her to meet and duck other guys. They were from a small town and moved to a bigger city when the problem got too much to handle for my father-in-law. He had an old school mentality and didn't want to leave his wife even though he knew about her many affairs because he took on the responsibility of 3 daughters. Everything he did was only for his daughters, and Mill became also a hidden coholic in time. Hiding beers and wine through the house or finding a pretext to go out to her car where she could drink more. She fought endlessly with my wife, who is older, now 33. Threw her out of the house, made her sleep on benches, in the car later on. Screaming, hair pulling and just being a complete BTCH without reason. My wife worked 2 jobs to cover her university expenses, and every night after getting back from school work at 2-3 a.m. Mill would come waltzing at 7 o'clock in the room and open the curtains, wake her up and just start fighting. Mill never agreed to the university my wife went to, but nevertheless she bragged in her hometown as if she was the one paying and motivating my wife to study. I could go on with more examples. Driving completely drunk with the little sister, 6-7 years old back then, 2006, 2007, in her car, reminding me and my then GF, now wife, that she gave us €10 to charge our phone credits as if the world depended on it. Needless to say, we paid every single cent plus interest back even if she didn't ask for it. This is where we start. My wife's family moved to another country in 2002. Mill could not stand me from the get-go. Spoke to my mother about breaking us up. I was 16, my wife 17 when we met 2001. She was always against us, even as we moved in together for the first time, and this was not a teenager flick anymore. Would start fights with me about my family and the work I do. I started in construction when I moved out of the country to be with my then GF. Years go by and we move from this city, where Mill and the rest of the family reside. Not far, about 150 miles, but to better jobs and a nicer place. This is 2007 already. 3 years pass by, and during these years I slowly planted the idea that her middle sister could also move here with us. We could search a job for her and ask her to pay only a part of the rent after she works for 2 months. 2010 comes and the middle sister is not happy. She is the one fighting now with her mother, so of course she wants out. So again I bring it up with my wife and insist that we can't let her mother ruin everything. Both agree and the middle sister moves in. We find a job and she liked the place, the pay, even falls in love with her now husband. She is really happy and laughing all the time. Needless to say that my Mill is destroyed. Now the only sister remaining is the little one, born when Mill was in 40. But she is too little for Mill to start harassing and fighting with her, so she becomes remorseful, starts calling and saying that she loves her daughters and now she will die alone. She even stopped drinking for a short while, but old die habits die very hard. In this case it is still very much alive. End 2010, I find another job in another country. Yes, this is in Europe, so we move again, leaving the middle sister behind with her own place and a new life. With all the love Mill spreads around, the little sister does poorly in school, is name called in her school and genuinely unhappy. My wife starts doing homework with her via Skype until the situation is unbearable, so again I just hint that we could take a bigger apartment and get the little sister her with us. She could learn another language and we could help her achieve her potential. I asked the little sister what she thought about this idea and she is thrilled, but I repeated myself that this only an idea, to get her head thinking already in March. By July, when school is over, she wants to desperately come to us and live with us, and we follow through. September 2012 and she starts the school here. Difficult because of the language barrier, but she is tough and intelligent. All the sisters are like that. We start from scratch. Keep in mind she is 12 now but can't tell quickly how much 6 plus 9 is without counting. We spend nights and days learning. I teach her the language and my wife math, geography and so on. I was the only one working and my wife pregnant with our first daughter. We pull through all of this and Mill is just lonely. Nobody wants her in their home. She comes visiting, but if they see that she drank beforehand, she is sent away. Again she started to spread the I love you without hearing any reply, just silence or an okay mom. Now she doesn't have anybody. She even tried living with another guy, but as soon as the mask fell off and he recognized who and how she was, they ended. She is still spreading lies about him, thinking that we all lived in a cave without knowing how she really is. Sometimes she calls and cries that nobody calls her, not her daughters nor her older sister. I laugh about it. I am happy. I worked so hard to get this result and I can't wait for her to be sick and wither away. I can't put it words how alone she is and how miserable she feels. I know it will remain like this until she dies. I will make sure of it. My watch never ends. Redditor's reaction story 4 after. Redditor 1, I love this story. You really should go take a look at her just novel, and send your wife over to our Raised by Narcissists. The people there would love your story. They're drams llamas hungers, and they can relate because they've also been there. Op answer, my wife doesn't know I posted this. She would not agree because she is a very discreet person and I used a throwaway just for this occasion without mentioning names. Funny enough, I did take a look at her just novel and found that this sub is more appropriate for my story. Redditor 2, how did you get permission for the youngest daughter to come live with you? It doesn't seem like the Mill would agree. Redditor follow up, Ops Mill sounds very much like my Mill. Her kids left her when they were underage as well. My husband and his sibling already had passports, and another family member had paid for their plane tickets to leave their country. Honestly, I don't think it even occurred to my Mill that she could have prevented it. She mostly whined about her kids being ungrateful but didn't actively stop them from leaving. Redditor 3, this is a great story. The revenge is perfect because you didn't do anything direct or malicious to your Mill, you simply allowed her daughters to see her for who she really is. Kudos for being a great brother-in-law. All the daughters' lives were greatly improved because of you. Op answer, thank you for the kind words. I don't know if I should take any merit because I was motivated firstly by revenge and only then compassion, and maybe I am not any better than my mill. But what I can say for sure, all 3 sisters are happy. I have 2 daughters and just an amazing wife. The middle sister has a 10-month-old daughter as well, and the little sister found a vocation in design and follows a very hard but great school that specializes in design, all from Adobe. Redditor 4, if there are mistakes, please understand that English is not my native language, thus I apologize up front. As an observation, I find it amusing that people who always apologize up front about their terrible English always seem to do a really good job writing their narratives with at least fair to decent and sometimes excellent English skills. In addition to this, from time to time we'll witness submissions from English-speaking people that are atrocious, full of spelling, grammar, and punctuation errors. Op answer, the problem that I encounter is that I prefer British English, but American English is everywhere, so I adjust to the vocabulary I see or hear. So it may very well be that I write or construct my phrases in a British way but finish them off with some American English. Vice versa is also true. You should hear me when I speak to an Italian in English. Even though I speak Italian, I mostly let them speak English in the beginning only to point out that I think they're Italian by way of the accent. Redditor 5. My favorite part of this revenge is that you didn't have to do anything but offer to be a safe haven for your younger sisters-in-law. The mill did it all on her own by being a ducking twat. That doesn't make you any less awesome in my eyes though. Way to go. Story 4. The best revenge you can get on someone who betrayed you is to let them live life. This happened 6 years ago, but I was thinking about it yesterday and decided to write it now. So once upon a time I was married. It was a good relationship for the most part. Good communication and seldom any arguing. Over time my wife meets a guy, let's call him Dan. Dan, on the surface, seemed like a cool dude. He and my wife worked together and seemed very close. I didn't really care, they were co-workers. Everybody has that co-worker they're close to, right? Over time, I sensed that Dan and my wife are getting too close. She texted him constantly and I started getting suspicious, but I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to come off as jealous. One night I snooped through her phone and found some implicit texts she sent to Dan. It basically confirmed that A, she was cheating on me, and B, she wanted to leave me for him. Even though I was pissed off that she cheated on me, I also wanted to get out of this marriage ASAP. The next day I sat her down and told her I knew everything. There was a lot of tears on both sides and denying on her side, but she finally confessed her affair. She basically told me that she loves him and not me. We agreed that we would get divorced amicably. No alimony, and whatever was ours before the marriage is ours after it. It was a very quick divorce. Now, as much as I wanted to kick the acid out of Dan, I didn't want to risk going to jail. At this point, they were in a relationship living together. Considering she has known him for less than a year at that point, I knew things were going to end badly. A couple of months after the divorce I moved to the West Coast. I had no communication with my ex from then until a month ago. She messaged me on Facebook and told me she was sorry for how she treated me and that she's miserable and misses me. I decided to look through her profile. She's married to Dan, has 3 kids with him, and they're both horrendously fat. Apparently soon after they moved in together she became pregnant with his kid. She had to quit her job because of the pregnancy and since then hasn't had a job. They got married while she was still pregnant and had 2 more kids. They're living off food stamps and government aid too. At that point I felt vindicated. I wanted to get revenge on her and Dan for so long. To see they ducked up their own lives so bad was good enough. Redditor's reactions. Redditor 1. Play the oblivious cheerful friend role and tell her you're surprised she messaged you, but that she looks so happy and has a wonderful family and that she must be having the time of her life. You're glad it's working out for her. You're glad that the 2 of you were able to find happiness after the divorce. Yay! Redditor 2. Karma is the most satisfying revenge. Especially knowing that you did everything you could to keep things in the right after what she did, then to see what she caused for herself. It's beautiful, isn't it? Redditor 3. Pro revenge is cutting her out of your life and now seeing hers all up in flames with her telling you how she misses you. Redditor 4, I'm 2.5 years in. I was married for 7 years and she left and took all our money. Long story. That's the TLDR version. She met someone else 2 weeks after me, within 7 months, bought a house with him, and after a year, is now engaged with him. In my country, we have to be separated for 2 years before getting a divorce. She's currently doing legal proceedings to do this. I haven't spoken to her in 2.5 years. She left and didn't even look back. She just changed her mind about me. It is still painful dealing with it and thinking about it. I'm still waiting for karma to kick in, too. But every time I expect something, it just turns out better for her. She has severe depression and Asperger's, which is how she was able to move on and remove me completely as though I never existed. Still waiting for something. Redditor 5, I found a girlfriend I'd been living with was emotionally cheating on me. We broke up and I kicked her out. Fast forward 5 years later and I'm married to my dream woman and have a 6-figure job. My ex is still working as an ophthalmologist assistant with her boyfriend, the one she cheated on me with, who has the same occupation. She'd always told me that, although she wasn't with me for the eventual income, I was in grad school at the time, she was going to appreciate my hard work and great job. Sucks for her.